Hello Bookish friends, welcome to my May wrap-up part 1. In this video, I will talk about the 6 books that I finished in the first half of May. And like I did in my previous wrap-ups, I will insert the clips that I recorded quite soon after I finish those works. Today is the 3rd of May and I finished the first book of the month, which was Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel. In this book, there are many timelines. In the first timeline, Edwin St. Andrew is 18 years old when he crosses the Atlantic by steamship, exiled from polite society following an ill-conceived comment at a dinner party. He enters the forest, spellbound by the beauty of the Canadian wilderness, and suddenly hears the notes of a violin echoing in an airship terminal. 2 centuries later, a famous writer named Olive Llewellyn is on a book tour. She's traveling all over Earth, but her home is the Second Moon Colony, a place of white stone, striped towers, and artificial beauty. Within the text of Olive's best-selling pandemic novel lies a strange passage. A man plays his violin for change in the echoing corridor of an airship terminal as the trees of a forest rise around him. When Gasperi Jacques Roberts, a detective in the black-skied night city, is hired to investigate an anomaly in the North American wilderness, he uncovers a series of life appended. First of all, I want to say that I really did love this book. I think it is the best book that I have read so far this year. The plot of the book is very clever. The concept of time travel and time paradox is used in a quite interesting way. It was also quite interesting that all of these anomalies happened in the times of pandemic, which was of course still a very significant event in the time that this book was written. There are many connections with her other previous 2 books, Station 11, which I read, and The Glass Hotel, which I haven't read. These books take place in the same universe. However, none of them do spoil each other. Anyway, it is not very hard to understand this complex plot point because the writing style is very well. The only thing that kept me from giving this book a 10 out of 10 was the fact that although the characters were very complex, I was interested in them but not emotionally invested in any of the characters. But of course, I'm very glad that I read this book. And I gave Sea of Tranquility by Emily St. John Mandel a 9 out of 10. Today is the 5th of May and I finished my first book for middle grade May, which was second to last book in Paddington Bears series, Love from Paddington by Michael Bond. This book actually talks about the past events that happened in the whole series. It is told through a collection of Paddington's letter to his aunt Lucy back in Peru. This new book offers Paddington's special view on some of his most famous tales. And the book concludes with an original letter from Aunt Lucy to all of us. Like all of the books in the series, I listened to this book with a smile on my face again. I really do like Paddington misfortune, and the events in the letter collection were of course quite funny to remember. My favorite tale will always be Paddington's adventure in an auction sale. The time that he bought a carpentry set because he was a polite bear and he waved the auctioneer back. This was a good reminder of how our time with Paddington as a series reader went. But I found the letters to be quite short, to be honest. So I gave Love from Paddington by Michael Bond a 6 out of 10. Today is the 6th of May and I finished the book that I was bud reading with Amy at Sobeck, the 4th and the last book in Gilded Age Heiresses series by Harper St. George. The title of this book was The Duchess Takes a Husband. This book follows Camille, the Dowager Duchess of Hereford, as a rebellious widow with her burgeoning interest in the suffragette movement, and still considered quite weird because of her American ways. Because she has been through a lot in her marriage and has not enjoyed the pleasures of marital activities, she decides to make an offer to one man that she finds very, very attractive, the illegitimate son of an earl and co-owner of London's infamous Montague Club, Jacob Thorne. And he wants to buy his own club and gain the backup of investors. Therefore, Camille offers Jacob the respectability of a fake engagement with a duchess. In return, she only has one condition. She wants Jacob to show her if it is possible to experience pleasure in bed, and therefore their game of seduction starts. Like all of the books in the series, this book also has quite spicy sex scene, but I do not mind such scenes when there is a believable attraction and romance between the main characters. This book also had a couple who were very much attracted to each other. It was very easy to support their relationship because up until a crucial point, their communication with each other was excellent. This book also featured quite significant social issues such as marital abuse, verbal abuse, and also the resistance to suffragette movement and the equality of women in the time period of the early 20th century. So other than the romance and a very, very admirable and patient male lead, it was great to know more about the background of the society and the social issues, like I said before. So overall, like all of the books in the series, I also gave this book an 8 out of 10. And I'm very, very glad that Amy and I finally found romances that are very, very easy to root for. I cannot wait to start a new buddy read with Amy for the following months. Today is the 7th of May and I finished the book that I was reading for Reading the Globe book club. This was actually the book for the month of April, but although I started it in April, the discussion has not happened yet, so it's not quite so late to finish the book. Embers by Sandor Marai was originally written in Hungarian and I read the English edition. This book follows an old general who lives in a secluded woodland castle belonging to his family, and he's preparing to receive a rare visitor, a man who was once his closest friend, but he has not seen him in the past 41 years. When Conrad comes to the castle, we start to read the duel of words and silences, long monologues, accusations and evasions. They will exhume the memory of their friendship and that of the general's beautiful long-dead wife. They will return to the time when the three of them last sat together following a hunt in a nearby forest. This book was quite interesting to read for me. It had a very slow tempo. As most of you know, I prefer books with fast tempo, but the book really had a interesting take on a long-lost friendship, which was very close to brotherhood. And as we go through the book, we learn that the events are not as significant as we think, but the feelings and the consequences of a friendship lost can really change the lives of the people involved. The prose of the book was written in a method that I liked, so the very slow-moving plot did not annoy me much. And through the perspective of the events that happened to three main characters, we also learn about the time period in the last years of Austrian-Hungarian Empire. We also learn about the social differences as well as political and the military history of those times. Overall, this was a quite decent read for me. So I gave Embers by Sandor Marai a 7 out of 10. Today is the 11th of May and I finished the chosen book for Fear of Missing Out book club for the months of May and June. If Cats Disappeared from the World by Genki Kawamura. I read the English translation. It was translated by Eric Selland. In this book, our narrator's days are numbered. He is estranged from his family, living alone only with his cat Cabbage for company, but he was unprepared for the doctor's diagnosis that he only has months to live. But the devil appears with a special offer. In exchange for making one thing in the world disappear, he can have one extra day of life. So begins a very bizarre week in which our narrator is faced with taking out something from the world that somebody else enjoys. I found this book very interesting. This book is actually an excellent book for book clubs. It raises so many questions while reading it about what matters in life and mortality, the family relationships. There are many themes which are handled quite well in this book. And additionally, I really like the way the plot and the events finally resolved in the end. However, I have to admit, this book did not make me feel as much as it made me thought. So it was a book that I liked very much, but it also failed to capture my heart. And I gave it Cats Disappeared from the World by Genki Kawamura an 8 out of 10. Today is the 14th of May and I finished the book that I was reading for Nancy Drew Read Along. This month we read the 15th book in Nancy Drew Mystery Stories, the original Nancy Drew series. The name of the book was The Haunted Bridge. I also read this book for middle grade May. In this book, Mr. Drew is on the trail of an international ring of jewel thieves and asks Nancy to assist him. The trail leads to a summer resort area. Before Nancy has a chance to start work on her father's case, a golf caddy tells her a frightening tale. In the dense woods nearby is an old wooden footbridge guarded by a ghost. Intrigued by the caddy's story, Nancy decides to investigate. This book was one of the more interesting ones in the series. I quite liked the way that the mystery was constructed. The suspect was not as obvious as the other books. And the fact that Nancy investigated this mystery with her close friends made it much more enjoyable to read because I really like Nancy's friend group as well as their quite cute young love story. The only thing that sort of bothered me a bit was the fact that Nancy was the best at everything she does again. But of course, the target audience wouldn't mind it so much because I know for a fact that when I was reading Nancy Drew books during my teenage years, I was a big fan of Nancy Drew and she was sort of like my role model. Of course, the writing style was engaging and in these books, the concept of cliffhangers at the end of every chapter is done quite efficiently. Even better than most of the adult books. Overall, this was a quite decent middle grade mystery read again, and I gave Haunted Bridge by Carolyn Keene a 7 out of 10. So those were the 6 books that I finished in the first half of May. Please comment down below, have you read any of the books that I mentioned in this video and what did you think of them? If you're a new viewer, first of all, welcome. Please like and subscribe. Hope to see you very soon. Bye. As for Turkish word of the day, I'm going to choose disappear. Disappear means kaybolmak in Turkish and kaybolmak is our Turkish word of the day. Have a good day.